This is the easiest, fastest, and smartest method of coloring your digital drawings. And in this video, you'll learn how you can easily color your line art and go from this to this in a very short time. It's time to work smart, not hard. Let's go. So, we have the line art of a badass beast here, and we're gonna be coloring it. Now, most beginners would approach this in either of the following ways. They'll use the brush tool to manually color it by scribbling over and over like you do with a sketch pen on a paper. Very tedious and time consuming, not recommended. Some beginner artists use the brush tool to paint a close outline along the outer edges of the line art and then use the paint bucket tool or magic selection tool to select the inner area and fill it with color. You can see the weird empty lines. Faster, but not the best way to do it. Slightly more experienced artists use the lasso tool to carefully make selections along the line art and then fill it with color. This takes a lot of patience, time and finesse, and can be painfully frustrating. Again, not the smartest way to do it. So that brings me to this amazing technique I'm about to show you. Super fast, easy and efficient way of coloring. I'll start by filling the layer below with a medium gray color because I find white too bright to look at constantly. Gray is more soothing. Then I'll create a new layer below the line art layer where I'll be coloring. Then I'll select the magic wand tool, go to the line art layer and click on the outer area to select the entire negative space outside of the subject. But wait, what's this? Looks like this selected almost everything, including parts of the subject. That's weird, right? If I fill the selection with the color, this is how it looks. Not what we want. Looks like we have a leak. Something like this happens when your line art isn't complete and there are open areas through which selections and colors can leak in or out. So when creating the line art, make sure that all the outer edges of the subject are completely closed. Any open areas like this need to be sealed shut. By the way, this character has been designed by my dear friend Animesh, an amazingly talented artist. Go check out his Instagram and ArtStation page from the link in the description down below. Once the line art is closed off completely, I'll once again select the magic wand tool and click on the area outside of the subject. And this time, we have a perfect selection. Next, I'll go to the select menu, go down to modify and select expand. Then I'll change the value to 2 pixels and hit OK. This expands the selection further inwards to make sure we don't have any blank empty edges or excess color fill beyond the line art. The selection ends perfectly in the middle of the line art, right below the layer. Now I'll go to the blank layer below and use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+I to invert the selection so that the main subject gets selected now instead of the surrounding area outside. Then I'll press Alt plus backspace to fill it with a color of my choice. Beautiful. This whole process takes less than 10 seconds. Next, I'll pick the lasso tool, select specific areas of the subject that might have different colors, such as the fins on the tail. Don't worry about the outer edges, but carefully select the inner edges that connect with the main subject. Areas such as the claws, the horns on the head, the scaly spikes on the back, the eye, the teeth, the tongue. Next, I'll use the keyboard shortcut Ctrl+Shift+J to cut these segments out and place them in a new separate layer. Now I'll create a new layer on top. Right click and select Create Clipping Mask. Now on this new clip layer, I'll paint the different colors of these different parts of the body. That way everything I paint will stay bound within the area of the base layer below. As you can see, I'm using a large size brush to paint quickly on these areas and yet there are no colors leaking outside. That's the power of Clipping Mask. Alright, now I'll select all the colored layers and press Ctrl+G to put them all inside a group. Then create a new layer above and clip it to the group. Set the blending mode to multiply because it's time to paint the shadows. Next, I'll select the brush tool, pick a medium gray color, turn the opacity pressure option on, set the opacity to around 26%, flow around 47%. Now I'll increase the brush size and paint some overall dark gradient from below and sides to indicate that the light source is somewhere above. Now I'll lower the brush size and paint the finer and darker shadows. This is the stage that will help sculpt the subject and define its volume. Be mindful that the areas facing the ground, such as the belly, lower surfaces of the head, jaw, arms, will be in shadow, and cast shadow of the torso will fall on the arms. Now I'll pick a darker gray color to further define the deeper areas with darker shadows. I'll slightly darken these scaly textures of the skin on the multiply shadow layer itself. Alright, so the shadows are done, but it looks very dull and grayish. It's time to add some colors to the shadow. Press Ctrl+B to bring up the color balance panel and push the colors towards red, pink and blue. This adds an interesting warm, vibrant tone to our dull shadows. Now this looks a lot more colorful. Next I'll create another new layer and set it to overlay mode to paint some highlights. I'll pick a bright yellow color and paint on the areas where I haven't painted shadows, mostly on surfaces facing up or the sides. Now I feel like I can add some color variations in places. So I'll go back to the base solid color fill layer and paint some blue tones under the eyes to give this beast an evil look. Add some fleshy red colors inside the mouth. I'll add some darker orangish tones on the belly and shadow covered arms and parts of the hide on the top to give a more interesting and organic color variation. Now I'll create another new layer on top in overlay mode to paint the final strong highlights. I'll use the lasso tool to make selections of places that will receive strong highlights and fill it with a bright warm color. This looks super bright, so now I'll use a razor tool with a textured brush and low opacity to gradually erase and soften these strong hard highlight shapes. And this is more or less ready. I'll do some final post-processing color correction with some color lookup adjustment layers, play around with them a bit. And lastly, we'll need a nice background to complement this creature. So here's a quick time lapse. If you want to see how to paint awesome backgrounds with detailed explanations and step-by-step breakdowns, feel free to check out my other videos on painting backgrounds and environments. I've made many tutorials on this topic already, and if you're new to this channel, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified as soon as my next video drops. And finally, this is what we have. We went from this to this. The whole process took less than 40 minutes. A lot of beginners spend up to 10 hours on something like this. But now you know how to do it super fast. If you found this video useful, please leave a like, share it with your friends, and leave a comment. So that's all for now. See you on the next one. Peace.